Good Sunday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, school security is in the headlines once again. Now, unfortunately, the words Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland have become bywords for violence and death on our nation's school campuses. And just recently, another deadly shooting has happened at a school just some 10 miles away from Columbine in Colorado. An 18-year-old and a juvenile have been arrested in that shooting. One student is dead and more children were injured. The question that we ask every time this happens is why? Well, to that end, local law enforcement and school officials are working together to increase school security and to be proactive in identifying any threat to our schools. This morning, we'll talk with Mobile and Baldwin County officials about how they are working to keep our children safe. Well, joining us this morning, Baldwin County Sheriff Huey Haas-Mack and Baldwin County Public Schools Superintendent Dr. Eddie Tyler. About their school resource program this morning, we'll be talking about that in addition to other security measures that they have taken in Baldwin County. And we're also talking with Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran and Andy Gatewood, the Resource Director of the Mobile County Public School System. We will discuss the security measures that are in place now at Mobile County Public Schools. Now, you'll also hear this morning from Mobile Police Chief Lawrence Batiste. And we'll also be talking with Dr. Jeremiah Newell, the Mobile Area Education Foundation's Chief Operating Officer, who oversees the Axel Charter School. And of course, we have a lot to talk about, so please stay with us this morning. Perspectives continues after this message. And welcome back to Perspectives. Baldwin County officials are working together to make sure that every public school has a school resource officer on the campus of the 47 public schools. Now, 11 are covered by Baldwin County Sheriff's deputies. The other 36 schools are covered by municipal agencies, and 48 arrests were made with no on-campus violent incidents. 276 kids, meantime, have graduated from the DARE program, which seeks to prevent drug use, gang memberships, and violent behavior in our young people. And this morning, again, we're talking to Baldwin County Sheriff Huey Haas-Mack, as well as Baldwin County Public Schools Superintendent Eddie Tyler. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Another tragic week, just a shocker again. What happens in the school system when you get these reports?
Well, I'll talk about from our school system standpoint. Right now we have Anthony Sampson, our Director of Prevention and Support, on my staff, and he immediately notifies schools of any situations that have happened that we might want to be aware of. A lot of times we get little notifications on the upcoming anniversary of Columbine and things like that. But we go into a kind of awareness mode. And it kind of keeps us all on our toes, and Anthony does a good job with that.
It's always a sad story when we report this on our end because of involving children, number one, and of course you extend that to their families and the community, and then again our schools not being the safe place that we've always thought of them being. What happens at the Sheriff's Department when you hear about this happening at other places across the nation?
Well, one of the things we reach out and make sure all of our school resource officers that are on each campus knows about it. In today's world of social media, when people hear something happen at a school, usually the only word they hear is school. And so they immediately think of my school, our school. So we work with the Board of Education and with the principals and the counselors of each one of those locations to let everybody know what's going on, where it's going on, and to be just attentive to any situation that might come up during that time.
How did the partnership come together where you saw the need to make sure that your schools were covered in Baldwin County? How did it happen? Well,
I know we both can speak to that. We were at a news conference we did together, and really it resulted out of the Parkland shootings that you had mentioned earlier. And I know it's been on Sheriff Mack's mind for a long time about school security. That's just what he's about law enforcement. But it's been on our minds too, because immediately when something like this happens, parents react. A lot of the reaction is aimed at the schools and what are you doing, or what have you done, or why don't you do certain things. So that shooting kind of prompted us to get together and form a partnership. I think at that time was it County Commissioner Elliott was part of this situation, and we had a press conference at Daphne High School, And from that point, we started working on our SRO program, and Sheriff Mack was a big part of that, and I'll let him explain how that came about.
Well, at that time, of our 47 campuses, we roughly had 17 school resource officers that were working. In Baldwin County, we have 14 municipalities, 12 of which have police departments, and all of our high school campuses are located within municipalities. So we knew that it had to be a partnership between local law enforcement and the county sheriff's office with our 14 schools that we cover so that we could work this together. We came together with the chiefs of police. It was a great meeting. Everybody agreed. Then we met with the powers to be, the mayors, the council, the county commission, and we started working on how can we make this work to stand this up in the 2018-2019 school year. We actually started a little bit behind the 8 ball, so to speak, because we really started developing this concept in May and June of last year to finalize it and get it stood up for August when school came back in session. And it was that cooperation that we were able to pull it together. Then we went back to the Board of Education. We had to look at some funding. How are we going to fund this, and how are we going to make that work? And that's when Superintendent Tyler and the Board of Education came forth and said, we'll partner with you on this. And that's really when it finally came together so that we could institute the current program.
Now, it sounds like it wasn't something difficult to sell to both school officials, law enforcement, and I'm sure to the community.
It was not, Eric. I talked with Sheriff Mack. I talked to our CSFO, John Wilson, who's the keeper of our funds, and he's done a marvelous job managing our funds since we've been together. But to me, it's what's important to a school board. And so we approached our school board with this concept of a partnership with local law enforcement, municipalities, county law enforcement, and the support of the county commission behind this. John Wilson identified some funds. We basically identify about $2 million right now a year toward this, and we're not sure where that's going to go, if that's going to go up, but we identify that money. Our board latched on to it. That it's what's important to them, safety and security, and along with the SRO program, which naturally we didn't want to get in the SRO business as a school system. We didn't want to train. We didn't want to really get into that. We wanted to help fund. I'm not a big fan of teachers carrying guns on campus. They have so many issues they deal with. They family at night, teachers in the day, and they have issues just like any of us do. So with the partnership with law enforcement, we were able to put this in place. And then we went into our security modes with our schools, and we ramped that up and have spent several $1 million on that.
How does law enforcement work in this equation, since you are providing the actual resources to protect the kids?
All of our SROs work together. They're all certified school resource officers, which that took us a while to get everybody certified and accredited to do that. Many of our school resource officers also teach other programs such as DARE, anti-bullying programs, cyberbullying, things of that nature. And so we somewhat monitor all the SROs. We have a great communication network with an SRO on each campus. We meet periodically from time to time. We actually have a board that's comprised of 3 police chiefs and myself that review the program. We look at the numbers, the stats. We communicate whenever we have an incident. And I think this year, as we're coming up now just a couple weeks away from ending it, I think we're going to show not only did we have a good year, but I think that we've seen some areas for some improvement, some areas for expansion, and we'll be looking at that as the kids come back to school later in this year. Anything
you can share about something that you've been able to get the proactive reaction to it, to where you feel pretty safe to say that you were able to stop something from happening before it could happen?
Yes, we call that an intervention. And so a lot of times a school resource officer really does nothing more than build a relationship with the school, faculty, and the children. And it's through those relationships a lot of time we get information. Just this year, we solved 1 armed robbery in Fairhope from information that was obtained from a student that went directly to a school resource officer. We have intervened in 4 that we know of students that made a comment about bringing a gun on campus, and those were intervened in the children's home before that ever happened. We've had several instances where children have talked about harming themselves or know of other children that may be contemplating suicide. We intervened in all of those situations through that information network. And the same works with teachers. We had 2 cases this past year where we had children that were just living in very poor conditions at home. They were in poverty, no electricity in one home, and it was through the information that we got through our school resource officer in a partnership with the Department of Human Resources. We intervened in that, got those children out of that situation and tried to get them back on the path to being healthy.
So it goes beyond just the violence issue. We thank both of you for sharing the success that you're having as well as what you're doing to approach this. And we're going to talk more about this throughout the year because a concern seems to be happening to us at least 2 or 3 times a year. Now stay tuned this morning because we will be talking with Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran and Mobile County School Resource Director Andy Gatewood on the programs that they're doing to keep your child safe in the Mobile County Public School system. Now before we take a break here though, here's Mobile Police Chief Lawrence Batiste sharing how his department works with the resource officers at MCPSS.
So one of the things that we try to do is try to incorporate some collaborative training between us and the resource officers. We've partnered with them as they've gone through and done ALICE training throughout the Mobile County Public School system, so we've been a part of that. We've sat in that training with them, taking an active role in doing whatever we can to make sure that that ALICE training is good. And our ALICE training is really more of a active training or alert type training that teaches those individuals that may encounter an active shooter situation what to do. Again, every one of the resource officers have personal contact with the precinct commanders. We encourage our precinct captains to make sure that their personnel are reaching out to the resource officers and having some type of presence, in particular at our high schools and our middle schools. And so they know how to get in touch with us. The administrations, the school administrators, as well as the resource officers know how to reach out to those precinct commanders and get the resources that they need.
And welcome back to Perspectives. Mobile County Public School officials have developed programs that they say are keeping school campuses safe. Mobile County Public Schools employ 12 resource officers and 1 director of safety and security. Combined, they have 139 years of law enforcement experience and almost 200 years of experience as school resource officers. Mobile County Public Schools was the first district in Alabama to receive organizational certification through the ALICE Training Institute for its school security program. And thanks to an intensive training program last year, 80% of Mobile Public School employees have been trained now on how to respond to emergency situations. Random canine searches and metal detector searches catch students who try to bring items into the school that they shouldn't be doing, including drugs and weapons. And the school system's intervention teams as well help keep the kids out of trouble. Now joining us again this morning, Sheriff Sam Cochran, Mobile County Sheriff Department. He is the sheriff of the department as well. And of course, Andy Gatewood, the resource director of the Mobile County Public School System. We thank you both gentlemen for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We're talking about the school security, an issue we've always concerned about, but then again, just the last couple of days, we're dealing with it in Colorado, and ironically, just close to Columbine, the high school that sort of put this at the spotlight of our nation. How do you all respond when you hear about reports happening in other places as you evaluate what you're doing here in Mobile?
Well, sometimes we may ramp up additional security when something like that happens, maybe just oftentimes just so the students and the parents and faculty feel a little calmness or something. But we're always planning and expecting something like that to happen, and so we're planning and doing everything we can to prevent and take action when something comes.
How does it grab you, Andy, when you hear those reports?
You know, in the same manner, we're always prepared. You know, my greatest asset is I have 12, as you said, highly experienced, dedicated individuals who are in the schools every day. And, you know, we do things every day to try to prevent these kinds of things and be proactive. You know, and when these events occur throughout the country, we certainly are on high alert as we are just on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, we have a fantastic relationship with local law enforcement. throughout the county. Every municipality and the Sheriff's Department are great to help us out with making sure that that we have the things that we need to make sure that our kids and our staff are safe every day.
How important is that relationship when you talk about working with both the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department?
It's critical. It's critical. It's crucial. I've known Sheriff Cochran for some 30-odd years. I actually worked for him on the Mobile Police Department a number of years ago, and so same way with Chief Batiste and you know and all of the other chiefs and folks that we work with throughout the county. It's critical that we are able to contact them in times of need, and that they understand our role and we understand their role. In fact, with regard to the ALICE training that you spoke about earlier, last summer we trained about 200 folks as trainers for this particular ALICE protocol, and we had sheriff's deputies, Mobile Police Department officers, all the way from Dauphin Island to Citronelle that were trained with us. So if we have an event, we want them to know what we're going to be doing, and we want to know what they're going to be doing. So it's you know, a process that we follow, and not just law enforcement, but all first responder agencies. I just left this morning a really neat drill that took place at Blount High School. They did a full-scale hazmat drill there. They landed South Flight helicopter and had a couple of agencies there, and really not even agencies in our school system. There were some folks from other districts that help out in those instances. And that's the thing about first responders. Their goal is to save lives and make sure everyone is safe. So it doesn't matter where we're from or who we are or who we work for, whatever. It's the goal is to make sure that the students and faculty and the citizens of Mobile are safe.
How does the Sheriff's Department see themselves in this together relationship? How do you fit in?
Well, we've had a long, like Andy said, a long-term relationship. The Mobile County system was the first in the state, and so for more than 35, probably 40 years, they've had school resource officers in place. And so before these shootings started, we were already working on other situations, and so we've trained together over the years. And fortunately for Mobile County, most of his resource officers are prior law enforcement officers, and so then they get the training for school resource officers, and it really works out well. So in many of these instances, a lot of times they're telegraphed. The one thing we know is many times people telegraph what they're going to do, and when things happen, oftentimes no one ever said anything, but we're able to intercede many times when a school resource officer finds something out. They get with our deputy sheriffs and investigators, and they may work through the night to determine who may have put something out on social media, and we've learned how to do that rapidly, and usually intervene at 2 in the morning or something with a parent and saying your child is making threats to kill somebody or something of that nature. And we've had a number of those things that oftentimes they're just faking it or something like that, but you never know. And so we take every single one of those allegations very seriously and react very quickly.
We heard earlier from Sheriff Mack and Superintendent Tyler about Baldwin County. How do both of our counties here in South Alabama, what's the atmosphere compared to some of these other school systems? Is it something about the environment, or this can happen anywhere when we talk about school incidents like we're reporting from the national perspective?
I mean, I believe certainly it could happen anywhere. We don't want to lose sight of the fact it doesn't matter how big of a system. Us, Mobile County being the largest system in the state, to the smallest system in the state, it could happen anywhere. However, what we strive to do in our process is to make our environment a safe place for students where they can come and learn. That's our business, is teaching and learning. So everything that we do every day is to promote a safe environment, and I feel as though for the most part, our clients, our students and our faculty feel as though they're safe when they walk on our campuses. And we're doing, and there's always better ways to do everything. We're continuously learning and learning from each other and better ways that we can do things, from access control to, vetting folks as they come in and off of the campuses and things like that. So we're moving that way. So everything that we can do and every step that we can move forward is to make sure that our folks understand when they come on our campuses that they are safe.
Yeah, a lot of training in the background that goes on with the officers and behavioral analysis and things like that. Every day we're learning more about that, and of course we know so much of this is social media driven and stuff, but we've had courses put on by the Secret Service on behavioral analysis and how to be predictive and you know, and encouraging people see something, say something, that kind of stuff. But sometimes we want to get even before they do something. You know, we want to cut it off even earlier than that, and that's where some of the behavioral analysis kind of stuff comes into play. Who's more apt to be that type of person to do something like that, and let the educators, you know, train them better to be able to pick out these people and monitor, you know, without accusing them of anything, but just be aware of the types of personalities that are subject to do something.
Well, we admire all four of you and thank you for the great job that you all are doing, because you're both dealing with over 40-some schools in Baldwin County and over 80-some schools in Mobile County. And of course, again, as you mentioned, the largest system in the state. So we admire you all and thank you so much for what you're doing. We're going to close out as we also talk with Dr. Jeremiah Newell, the Mobile Area Education Foundation's Chief Operating Officer, who oversees the Axel Charter School. Now, Dr. Newell says that it's also important for these students to be safe, and law enforcement and school resource officers establishing a good relationship with those students.
We do believe that it's so important in this day and age to make sure that our students are safe. Unfortunately, things can happen at a moment's notice. And so we took a little bit of a non-traditional approach to handling those kinds of safety issues. Instead of hiring full-time resource officers, we partner with the Mobile Police Department and the Sheriff's Department to identify deputies and officers who would like to work in close proximity with schools and with students. We look for individuals who have a real collaborative spirit, who care about young people, who want them to be successful, and we invite them to become a part of our community, our school community, on a part-time basis. And there are many advantages to that partnership. First, certainly we're able to have officers who are trained to keep our young people safe, and that's issue number one. We want to make sure that our building is safe. But the second part is it helps to build relationships between young people and police. Because what our young people learn is that our officers are real people. They care very much about them and about their community. In fact, it even prompts some students to express interest in careers in law enforcement. And we have our officers come and talk to them about careers in law enforcement as a great and viable way to serve our community.
And welcome back to Perspectives. We definitely want to thank our guests this morning, Mobile County Sheriff Sam Cochran and Andy Gatewood, the Resource Director of the Mobile County Public School System, and of course Baldwin County Sheriff Huey Hoss Mack and Baldwin County Public Schools Superintendent Eddie Tyler. Now, for more information on school security and how you may be able to play a role in helping them do their jobs, the latest programs on your children's safety, you can call the numbers you see here listed on the screen. Now, please call the Mobile or Baldwin County Sheriff's offices for information on how you can help. You can also reach out to the Baldwin County Public School System, or if your child attends school in Mobile, the Mobile County Public School System's number there is listed as well. And we've also listed the number for you of the Mobile Area Education Foundation for information on the Charter School Axel program. We thank you for being a part of Perspectives today. Please join us again here next Sunday morning at 7:30 as we discuss important issues and seek solutions. Now, if you have any ideas or of the topics that you'd like for us to address, just drop it to us here at perspectives@fox10tv.com. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great week.